right, guys, we are back for another episode of CW Movie Night. We got Dean the Dream and Mike. How you guys doing?
Good, man.
Excellent. Chris, this is the first CW live stream of 2025.
Wow, how about that, man? And we're gonna kick it off with the ultimate Star Wars film, the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yeah.
I really don't think this film needs much of an introduction on this channel. I feel like even people who haven't seen it sort of know what it is. If you've been into Star Wars for a long time, you've at least heard of it if you've not physically sat through the whole thing. But I'll bet if you have sat through the whole thing, you've not, even if you have or haven't, you've probably seen the animated debut of Boba Fett that takes place in the holiday special.
Yeah, 100%.
And that happens to be the only part of it that's officially available on Disney Plus. It's almost like they know there's something up with that being the high point. So
it's crazy because I still think it's better than anything Disney's done since. But
wow, shots fired. Well,
here we go.
In that case, the cool thing about being in the Star Wars collecting community is you get to meet some cool people. So I thought if we're going to talk about this, why don't we bring in somebody he would be willing to join us who actually worked on it? And we have joining us here, Mr. John Celestri. And John was an animator on the holiday special, specifically the character of Boba Fett and a few other things. How you doing tonight, John?
Hey, good evening, Chris, Dean, and Mike. Hi.
Hey, man. Well, so look, it's like if you wanted to be responsible for one single thing on the holiday special, Boba Fett is pretty much it. That's pretty cool, man. So just for our new listeners who aren't familiar with you, could you give us a little bit of background on this project, sort of where you were at the time in your career and sort of how it sort of came across your desk?
Okay. Well, I was working at Nelvana, the Canadian studio. I had been there for Cosmic Christmas and for The Devil and Daniel Mouse. And the Star Wars Holiday Special, the cartoon, was the third project that the studio did. And during that time, I had been actually in the business for about almost, it was just a little more than 3 years. From entry until doing Boba Fett, I had 3 years of experience. I had worked on Tubby the Tuba, which was a film at New York Tech, and then I went to on Raggedy Ann and Andy, which was Richard Williams, who went on to do Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and so. So that was my experience until doing as an animator. I was actually this was the third project that I was actually an official animator. Prior to that, those other two features, I was an assistant. I had broken into the industry. I was learning. I learned from old Popeye and Mighty Mouse animators. So I wasn't looking at. I wasn't learning from, it wasn't, no disrespect, but I wasn't doing the Canadian Film Board stuff. I was learning production. I was Johnny Gent was the best animator of Popeye that they had back in the famous, the Fleischer and famous studios time. And so I learned from him about drawing and thinking about how to timing stuff, and he was great. So anyway, so I learned a lot, and also following up some Disney animators over at on Raggedy Ann and Andy. So I learned a lot, and so I was still, I think at the time I had just turned 28 when I was doing Boba Fett.
All right.
So that's where I was at the time of my career.
Okay, so yeah, so for the listeners who aren't familiar, Nelvana, the company that produced this segment and the Droids and Ewoks cartoons that came a few years later, was based in Toronto. And John is a Yankee who moved to Canada to work at Nelvana. So just for clarification, there they had to bring in the big guns to the Canadian studio to get things sorted out.
So but he's one of us. Good to know.
Well, there weren't too many people. I was hired on to work on. They were building up the staff to develop a feature film, which became Rock and Rule. And so that's why I was brought in, because there were no animators in Canada with feature film experience, and I had 2 under my belt. So
let's keep in mind the population of the world was half of what it is now in
Yeah.
1976. So it's Canada's a pretty new country. It's not that unusual that there's not a lot of first class animators. But anyways, but just so you guys know, we as you guys, if you watch the show, we did an episode on Rock and Rule with Brian LeMay, who was I think your tenure at Nelvana overlapped with him just a little bit, right? I think so.
Oh yeah, he was there. Yeah. Well, he was there a number of years, about four years while I was there.
Okay.
I was there from 77. In fact, it would have been January 9th of 1977 until about what was it? Until the early spring of 83. So I went
just into
all of
Inspector
Rock and
Gadget.
Rule.
Yeah. Okay, cool, man. So we talked about Rock and Rule on this channel with Brian, and that was a good time. And he actually scanned some of his some of the production work that he still had for us to share on the show. That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so basically, this little segment here was determined that would be the introduction to the wider audience of Boba Fett. Of course, the hardcore fans might know that the costume was shown at a parade somewhere in the States, that but before the internet, like 200 people saw it. Yeah. So this was the wider audience getting their first look at Boba Fett. So I guess what people might be interested in is like what sort of materials and production art did Lucasfilm provide you, and sort of where did any creative liberties come in? I remember very distinctly when I got to meet you and get you to sign an item that I'm going to show later. You pointed out that you very deliberately gave Boba Fett 4 fingers rather than 5 because you thought maybe he was an alien or something. So it was pretty loose, right?
Yeah, it was yes, it was very loose. Remember, this is 1977. 78 really, when we did it. And there wasn't a lot of instruction other than the soundtrack, and the script. That was that. The info that we received was that black and white videotape showing the costume. Okay. So that the editor, the guy who went on to, he came in and showed how the costume and all the pieces and all the various paraphernalia.
Yeah.
People forget those are scalps there that are hanging from. Those are tassels. Those are scalps, and somehow or another that gets lost in the Disneyfication process. But
so what John's referencing, I think, is you can find it on YouTube. There's a video of Ben Burt who did sound design, and then in the prequels he was actually the editor and sound supervisor, I think. But he sort of shows off the features of Boba Fett's costume on like a little video, and it's a white costume at the time.
Yes, that was it. And it was in the script. It was described as a stormtrooper. That's basically what it was. So we got that, and we received that, the script, the schematics of what the costume would look like eventually. So there were those drawings, design wise. And the instructions were make it look like a Mobius cartoon from Heavy Metal.
Yeah.
And so, and you'll see all the little texturing. You see look at the colors, the bright colors, the pastels. All of those help the characters pop out from the backgrounds. It's all very different, but you look at the line work on this here. You could see the little cross hatchings here and there. And that's all very Mobius-like, in terms of when you look at that from the 1975, 76, 77 cartoons from Heavy
Right.
Metal. That
Right, like
Mobius.
Arzak,
Yeah,
yeah, that
yeah,
all that stuff. You got
yeah,
people riding dinosaurs. That
yeah,
happens in
yeah,
this too.
yeah.
I have a quick thing I want to talk about and show John really quick. Just how kind of formative this and influential this animation is. So on this channel we were playing Dungeons and Dragons,
Okay.
and I have a character who's a knight, and then our other friend Zach is a wizard, and he could polymorph into different creatures.
Right.
And he was able to polymorph into a dinosaur.
Right.
And I was like, I want to put that on a T-shirt, but I want to draw it in a really interesting way. So I went ahead and I drew this based on
Okay.
the
Yeah, there you go.
Boba Fett and the so like this. It's so crazy talking to you and kind of coming full circle. But yeah, it's who's responsible for the colors, because that was my whole. Everyone's
Well,
so
if you
used
look
to
at the
Boba Fett
yeah,
looking
well,
away.
we had officially at the end, I guess, the final sign off was basically Lucas, but I mean, we came up with in house. We know what the referencing was, and that is to make it feel like a Mobius
Okay.
cartoon. And so therefore, if you go and look on Heavy Metal, you will see all the same kind of textures, the same
Yeah.
kind of colors and palette. And so that's what we were using. We were using that as our guide. As long as we
Do you re-
stayed within that, it all worked out.
Okay, I think maybe I'm reading you wrong, Dean, but I think, and the answer to this might be lost in time, but I think Dean's sort of getting at why is he blue? Like, where did the blue come from? Was that it was
No,
like
that's
because
just a design style.
okay, it just ended up that way, and that maybe it wasn't finalized when at that time this was approved, or because
No, this was here. There was nothing happening yet. Remember the stormtrooper costume, the super. He was still white because
white,
there was
yeah.
no decision yet.
Yeah.
When we were doing this cartoon, there was still no toys made.
Okay,
there was no other referencing to work with, and so therefore, it is no longer. I mean, obviously, when they did the metallic aspect to it, again, it's more of an L helmet that's more greenish blue. And it's more of a harder edged cartoon.
Right.
Back then, but that wouldn't have worked with this. It's not a Mobius color.
Well, the cool thing is
the live action colors are not Mobius colors.
Right.
Well, I mean, the cool thing is that this look for him did come back for that one Droids episode in '85, a couple years after the movies ended. So it's just cool to see that design continuity, because like this is a like, I don't know how long it is, 7 minutes or something like that, maybe 10 minutes.
9 minutes, 9.5 minutes long.
And like the idea that you'd maintain, even R2 and 3PO look the same in the Droids cartoon. The idea that you'd maintain those designs over a gap of like 6 years, and a company wouldn't just buy machinations, have to just reinvent the wheel. You know what I mean? Even though they're hiring Nelvana again, it's almost shocking to me that they didn't just redesign everything. Cool.
Well, they were all basically off. I mean, Nelvana, they had the model sheets. Why? We knew they knew what it was. I wasn't working on it at the time. I had left the studio by that time. No, so why change it? I mean, because it worked. And also remember, the drawing animation, you just are not just doing one drawing. You're doing hundreds of drawings, every time you're moving characters around through a scene. So you've got to, really, be judicious with your line work.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, and just like look at this background, for example. Like this stuff like this always blows my mind to see, because when you watch the special, you don't really get that sharp a look at it. But a few of these went up for auction a while back, and it's just like, look at the advertisement for the like syringe there and everything, like in graffiti.
Yeah. Yeah, those were all watercolors.
Oh wow.
Well,
this
it was a lot of water-based, material that they used, for those, for those backgrounds then.
was that like a cost-effective thing, or it's like a
What?
time effect? Watercolors as opposed to I guess like
Well,
traditional.
it really is a style. It really depends on
Okay.
what you're going with. Because remember, you're layering things. When you do these backgrounds, you're not just drawing, pencils. Sometimes you're laying down whole swaths of color and then working on top of that.
Right.
So I mean, it's a lost art. To
Yeah,
be
that's
able
what
to
I
do
think.
watercolor, to be able to do backgrounds like this is a lost art.
Yeah.
Badfish in the chat wanted to know if you knew the popularity of the character while you were working on it. Now, I'm guessing you get asked that a lot, and how can you know? But I'm sort of curious. Was it sort of explained to you that like this is our new marquee like marketing angle character, and you got to handle him with white gloves? Like,
there was no marquee. There was nothing going on, because remember when the Star Wars had come out in 77. That's that summer. So they didn't have toys. They didn't have enough toys. They haven't anything going on. There was no. We just thought we just knew that this was going to be supposed to be the new villain, and so this would be introducing the villain. But nobody is giving you, a whole. No one did. Was it marketing research as to whether or not there should be a bounty hunter? This was all out of the concept of the bounty hunter is Lucas's, and he had something to do with the finalization of the scripts and what have you. But he had it in his mind what he wanted to do, but he didn't give us any direction as to how to approach the animation of it. Everything that you see on the screen came out of our heads. All the animators, just imagined what they wanted to do, and I took it from the point of view of a Clint Eastwood, Jack Palance kind of villain.
There's so much stuff like it just occurred to me now, like this shot here is the first time you ever see the this sort of iris camera iris like hatch on the top of the Millennium Falcon that gets used once in The Empire Strikes Back, and that's the only other time. You almost I wonder if that existed, but if that was even a thought before this special, or if that's in The Empire Strikes Back because this was used as reference for
there is no Empire Strikes Back yet.
Right. So it's just cool to see, because that door is, it's very visually the same sort of door that he escapes out of. And where else are you going to see Boba Fett on the Millennium Falcon? Heresy. Yep. But yeah. So Badfish is asking, other than the 4 fingers, are there any other Easter eggs you put in? I don't know if you guys were doing Easter eggs at the time.
There's no Easter eggs, because what are they referencing to? Easter eggs have to be referencing to something. We're making it up as we go along. Remember, that's what people don't understand, is that there was for example, I slapped his dragon mount with the rifle, but that wasn't in the script. He had in the script called for Boba to punch his mount in the nose. Well, there's no way he could punch him in the nose. He was like supposedly standing next to them. Well, by the time that this came about, he was so big, there's no way to do it. So I slapped him across the neck there, and on the rump, like I would with a riding crop. But they just let me do it.
So
John,
I know.
That's,
go ahead.
Sorry, Chris. I wanted to ask. It kind of leads into what I was wondering. Was there any pushback on anything that you turned in? Was it any, hey,
nope.
Maybe let's not do this, or it
nope.
was just whatever you sent, they
nope.
went with it?
No. See, this here what you don't understand is that I never saw any pencil tests or any tests whatsoever until I didn't see the show until it was broadcast on TV. I never saw what I did. Everything
Wow.
was just flipping,
Wow.
and that was
Yeah.
it. I mean, the only ones who saw it was the director Clive and Frank Nissen, who was head of, was running a lot of the layouts and what have you, and Lucas. So if they told me to change something, I would, but I never got any reshoots. So there were no notes.
That's great.
Nothing. And
You
so
nailed it.
that's what happens when you are just running. I mean, it was really a fast turnaround, of animation. So
Yeah,
it
so
was,
so that was something else I was going to ask. Schedule wise, how much time did you guys have to put this 9-minute piece together?
well, the animation had to be, my memory is that from beginning to end of the actual animation section, like, just doing animation itself,
Mhm.
we had maybe about 6 to 7 weeks. So, we did that, and the assistants were following up on that, and they would layer it so that they would you do the animation, hand it in 1 week. They would see it on a post test. Then they get it and then put it into assistant cleanup work, and that was be in between and whatnot. And then they did a final shoot on that so that they could know that all of the drawings were there and everything was fine. And so there was maybe a lag of 3 weeks, but I think there was at the most maybe about 4 months, 5 months from beginning to end when they had to have the print. So that is go into color, into camera. There are all these various what's the word, analog steps that you think things were things didn't move slowly, but you still had to do the drawings. You still
Yeah.
had to do everything. And when you're flying on empty, you better know what you're doing when you're flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad I knew how to flip my drawings, like you would, just flipping a flip book, or drawing on the edge of your math book when you still had printed math books, and you'd show drawings and things would move in various stages, and that's basically how I tested my drawings, is by flipping them to see that it worked. So
John, I gotta ask you:
Yeah.
were you at all tickled pink with the return of the iconic Boba Fett blaster in the Mandalorian TV show?
Well, actually, I was told that, and that was cool. I said, "That's great. That's wonderful. That's great." But you see, it was called. We called it first. Here, okay. All of this stuff is in the scripts, that I'm telling you. But it wasn't a rifle. It was a tuning fork.
Oh,
He pulled out in the script. Boba Fett pulls out a tuning fork, and then and plunks it, and that's what sends the first lizard monster away.
oh, okay, yeah,
It wasn't, and so I always called that a tuning fork rifle.
yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it
So
looks
cool.
like.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
All right. Well, John can't possibly be interested to talk about the rest of the holiday special, and he's been very generous with his time so far. And we appreciate him hopping on late for us, because we were, us degenerates live stream late into the night, so
Yeah.
that's just the way it goes. But I did want to mention John has a great online store here where he has an awesome book that I've picked up that shows a lot of his production art from the holiday special.
Wow.
And you can get original sketches over there and his self-published comics, which are pretty awesome stuff. And you can see some of that. Look at that turnaround of the head of Boba Fett's dragon there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a full script. That's the entire package character model sheet package that I got. So it also has the full script with my notes on it. There are a few notes that I wrote in, and there's that. As I said, the entire thing, and it's a 64-page book, trade paperback book, and right now, if they're being shipped, if you're looking at it being delivered in Canada, you guys have got problems there.
The strike's over. The Canada Post strike is over, but
but you've got a lot of old Christmas cake that's that's
backing up the system. Yeah, it's going to be a while before it's normal again. But and John, if you want to see more of John, also we had him at our sort of local Star Wars convention called May the North Be With You, with a couple other guys from Nelvana, including Brian LeMay, and that's, you can find that panel on YouTube. It's about an hour and a half, and I think the funniest thing about it is just getting a window into Nelvana culture at the time at that studio, and they veer a little bit into what the day-to-day was like, and it's a funny chat, and we got to sort of reunite Larry Jacobs and John and Brian LeMay, and I think those two hadn't seen each other in like 30 years or something. So it's a really cool panel. Yeah. So, but John, you're the best, man. We really appreciate you hopping on, and it's it's so weird to even talk to anybody who worked on this, much less the guy who did the coolest part. So we really, really appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me, and have a happy New Year. I mean, have a good one. Okay, be very healthy and take care. And I'll see you.
We appreciate it, John. Thank you.
Take care.
So
Bye bye.
Amazing.
Isn't that fun?
That's awesome. Nobody wants to listen to us now.
Well,
might as well just end it.
Well,
Dude,
I mean,
kept asking him questions.
I know. Oh man, that was so awesome.
Oh yeah. Well, he's a good sport. It's just I think we started too late. You know what it is. But also like the holiday special is one of those weird things. And I wanted to ask you guys, do you remember when you sort of first heard about it, and how long from when you heard about it did it take you to actually see it? Because that's a journey for a Star Wars fan.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to John about it, but the first time I heard about it was I went to the Walmart, and they have Star Wars figures on the shelves, and I always bought Boba Fett stuff, and all of a sudden there's this Boba Fett in funky colors. I was like, what is this? I don't know what this is. And I do my research.
So you're probably talking about the 30th anniversary animated debut figure that came with the tuning fork, right?
Yeah. This must have been 2000. I was in high school, so 2005.
Seven. It's
2007. Okay.
Yeah.
I still have it. And I don't think I watched it for a number of years. Probably. Yeah, that's the exact one I have. Yeah. I probably didn't watch it until after we started the podcast, so 2018.
Right. And it was available. So for me, it was a little different, right? So there's this great website that I think it's just called StarWarsHolidaySpecial.com. And it's so weird because I discovered that site in high school sometime, and it's looking back on it now and looking at the credits for the website, it's damn, I know half of these guys who put this together now. But that site really mined a whole bunch of behind the scenes content and stuff. But I mean, when I found out about it, I think YouTube was there might have been 10-minute upload caps or something like that at the time. YouTube was in year one in 2006, 2007, right? So you had to have a pretty checked out account to even upload stuff. I'm pretty it was, you had to jump through hoops. It was music videos.
Yeah.
So I was pretty young when I'd heard of it. We joke about it before, but being one of the older guys, right? So I was born in '79, so obviously I missed it, but I had cousins that were 10 years older than me that lived, through all this stuff because they were kids, right? So once I was old enough, and I'm going over their houses and busting open their toys and everything, I was told about this, mythic Star Wars, holiday
Right.
special. But, at that point, you're talking mid 80s, there's no way to prove it at this point, right? So I just assumed they were just, making it up and, just teasing the little runt cousin who doesn't know any better, telling them stories. And it's one of those things that for me, was just kind of like a myth, for the longest time. And, kind of what you said, I remember first seeing parts of it, like you said, on YouTube. And for the longest time, I thought the animated part was it. I didn't realize there was more of it past that. And, and then you
Well,
start seeing some of the other, well, yeah,
Yeah.
you start
well, the
seeing some of the
I
other
mean,
stuff and you're thinking, what is this crap? And once it starts tying together, you're like, wait a minute, what?
well, for me, I remember seeing the family portrait, like just the Chewbacca family
Yes,
portrait, which
yeah.
is not even in the holiday special. I think it's like this production photo, and I feel like I saw it in Star Wars Insider or something, and I'm like, I saw that, I'm just like, there's no way this isn't amazing. How, how
Right.
is this?
I remember, you get that feeling, again, we're talking late 80s, and early 90s, whatever. You're thinking there's Star Wars out there that I'm not familiar with, right? I haven't seen, right? It became kind of like the Holy Grail. Like, I need to see this if it's real. And then, like, you comment, you kind of only get bits and pieces of it. And then it's the more, the layers you pull back on this thing, you're like, shit, put it back.
All right. Well, you're all familiar, but for those who aren't, so the basic idea is that Han and Chewbacca are out gallivanting as usual, stealing stuff, dealing drugs, whatever it is, and they get held up on a spice deal by the Empire, as you do when sometimes you're delivering stuff. The Empire puts a Star Destroyer and you're on your route home, and basically it's Christmas time or Thanksgiving, technically called Life Day. Wookiee Thanksgiving is Life Day. This aired on Thanksgiving Day in America in 1978, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, Chewbacca's family is real sad if he doesn't get home in time for Life Day, and that's like the basic plot of it. And that's used as window dressing to get into several variety show segments. Badfish says, I watched it very shortly after finding out it existed. I first saw it like 10 years ago, maybe more. Yeah, I mean, I just caught the tail end of VHS trading of this thing. That's how early I found out about it. Like, my first viewing of it was a tape that I purchased at a convention, if I'm not mistaken. So it's pretty,
A
like
bootleg
that.
copy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
I think I have 5 different bootleg copies of this. Like, I remember there was even a flea market that had a Star Wars booth that I shopped at, and for a while they were giving out a DVD of it if you spent more than like $50. So like, there's just if you got into this at the right time, you collect a few random copies of it. And I even saw on YouTube there was a guy who was doing a AI upscale of it into like 4K. And he's done like a few minutes of it on YouTube, and I think he just gave up because his smoke started coming out of his computer or something, so he didn't finish the whole thing. But basically it's a 70s variety show. Bruce Vilanch was one of the writers, and he's responsible for several other 70s variety shows, and like he'll tell you they were on drugs while they wrote it. No surprise there. Yeah, so let's see what Joe Internet thinks about the Star Wars Holiday Special via our good buddy John the Everyday Collector.
Hey everyone, Happy New Year. Hope you're having an amazing 2025 so far. I'm here to give you the IMDb rating as well as a Rotten Tomato score on the Star Wars Holiday Special. Now let's kick it off with IMDb. This holiday special got a 2.2 out of 10 with 18,000 reviews. Ouch. Moving on over to Rotten Tomatoes. It got a 25% on the tomato meter with only 16 reviews, and a 25% on the popcorn meter with 10,000 plus ratings. There you go. It has some consistency at least. This is a tradition. Hopefully, for the next episode, we'll have a higher rated film. Kicking it back to you guys in the studio. All the best and see you soon.
Poor
So
John.
yeah, we got a 2.
Cut him off.
John
He
edits his
wasn't
own
really
clips.
selling it, was it?
Oh,
Well, when I first approached John to do that segment, my thought was he would read it with as little interest as he read the IMDb scores when you guys did movie of the week. But he tries a little bit harder than I want him to for this stuff. I wanted him to just be like barely conscious while he just read off the numbers, and just so it'd be exactly like when you guys did it. But he tries a little too hard, I think. But
You got to give him notes.
Okay, so I had an old tomato meter. This is a weird one because it's pre-Dark Timeline, but it's almost like somebody went back in time and made a Dark Timeline film. But
yeah.
yeah, that's pretty amazing. But so we're talking twos, and we're going spoilers for an almost 50-year-old TV special here.
Yeah. Oh man, 2s. That's when he said 2, I was like, yeah, that seems about right. I mean,
Honestly,
this is-
surprised it was that high.
It's this is pretty dog shit. If I'm
Well,
being honest.
well, this is one of those things where it's like, we usually do all these, like, I mean, here we go, right? We usually do all these 150 screenshots and go through in chronological order. And I picked this because it's like, everybody I know can talk about this for an hour
This is
without
a
even
fever dream,
referencing
bro.
the plot. Really, it's like it's just like it's a concept. You know what I mean? It's like literally, it's like the start of a sitcom. You get a portrait shot of Chewbacca's whole family. His dad looks crazy. His dad is like, that's the one thing that they didn't
Dear
cheap out on.
Lord.
It's like these are and his son, like these are real Wookiee costumes on the scale at least it's kind of amazing that Chewbacca himself doesn't look worse, considering he's a rubber mask that you get close-ups of in 1978 pre-animatronics. So everything going on in that face, there's no wireless servos for the eyebrows or anything. Like it's all just whatever Peter Mayhew could do with the mask, right? And the fun fact about Mala, Chewbacca's wife here, who is played by a man, of course, as you might expect, to reach 7 feet tall or whatever it is. This is actually one of the Chewbacca masks that just got ruined to make Mala from the original film. And
wow.
Wow.
and Stuart Freeborn, the guy who made it, was not the guy responsible for the conversion, and supposedly he was pretty pissed off about it when they started working on Empire, because like it just got left as Mala. They didn't try and return it to its original state, and it still exists in a private collection to this day, which is pretty crazy. But obviously Itchy is a unique creation. Chewbacca's
Itchy.
dad looks like a gremlin, and
Oh.
and his son, that's just a mini Chewbacca there. That's just good stuff. Now, here's something that always tripped me out, because you get our first look at Kashyyyk, and it's called Kazook in this. But the crazy thing is, like, from a design perspective, this is a Ralph McQuarrie map painting. Like this is the real concept artist of Star Wars putting in work. It's like, oh yeah, maybe that's why it's one of the nice looking things in this whole thing. It's a Ralph McQuarrie painting. But what always tripped me out about this is like this influenced Episode 3 and Knights of the Old Republic designs. It's like this set what Kashyyyk looks like in one picture, and they actually maintained that. Even though under Lucas they maintained that in Episode 3, even though he refused to acknowledge the existence of this special, it's still what Chewbacca's home planet looks like, which
Yeah.
I always thought's pretty cool. But
Yeah, that's crazy. It goes to show you how much reverence he had for McQuarrie, right? If like you said, he doesn't want to acknowledge the special, but loves that guy enough to keep his his image and his artwork alive.
yeah, I even remember I went to there was a touring Star Wars concert in, like, it must have been like 2007 or 8. So like still Lucas is still at the helm, and it was Anthony Daniels was like hosting it, and then like an orchestra would play John Williams music, but he wasn't there. And like they had a gallery of concept art from all 6 Star Wars movies there. And there in the Episode 3 section, there was a recreation of this painting, and it's like they weren't hiding the origins of the design choices there. Even while Lucas was still in charge in the like early 2000s, they were showing off this work. And of course, you can see it in luscious detail if you have the gigantic 2-volume McQuarrie Star Wars book that came out a couple years ago. And then, basically, when you're sad that somebody's not there and you can't speak in English words, they look at a picture of Chewbacca to explain to the audience that they're sad that he's not there. This picture has a gigantic frame for some reason because it's the future. And she looks at him longingly because that's Chewbacca's wife. And and basically it's just like Chewbacca's house is the focal point, and a bunch of nonsense occurs. And his son watches some acrobats on a holotable, which was recently recreated for Skeleton Crew, which is a weird reference. It's like apparently they reshot the whole thing because they couldn't use any of the played footage from the holiday special. They didn't actually acknowledge that they had access to the played footage from the holiday special, which maybe they were told not to sort of even say they had access to it, because that would acknowledge that there's like masters available that they could be releasing, and maybe that's they're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because it's like, guys, we all know this exists. Like, you bought Star Wars, so
Well,
why,
Dean, we all know why it's not being released. Here's another Ralph McQuarrie matte painting looking down towards the Shadowlands from KOTOR, and that's nice looking stuff. It's just the trees are higher than they are on Endor here, but the real reason I think this is not hitting Disney Plus is all because of one specific scene, and there's a lot of crazy ones.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
But I think it's probably because when this guy Art Carney comes over in typical 70s fashion, and he gives a VR headset to Chewbacca's father, and he watches a very erotic music video, and I think that's the whole reason why this is not released on Disney Plus. Like, I think that's the beginning and end of the reason why.
I don't know, man. Disney Plus has Deadpool and Wolverine on it now. I mean,
Yeah, but this is Star Wars, though. Star Wars is not allowed to say stuff like that. And it's not even the music video that he watches. It's their conversation leading up to it. And he basically goes up and he's like, this is the good stuff, man. You're going to have a wild time watching this video, dude.
well, but they're selling death sticks. I mean, what's the difference?
Yeah, it's weird they don't want to sexualize Star Wars, even though we've been watching them fuck it for the past,
Jesus.
Wow. Direct reference to
years.
the South Park Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull episode, which I'll never get out of my mind. But it's one of the most traumatic things I've ever seen. But
Fucking underbite, dude. Looks like a bug.
he's missing teeth because he's 500. That's
Oh,
the
is
idea,
that what
right?
it is?
Well, I think Chewbacca is supposed to be 200, so his dad must be like pretty old. Like, when do you start having kids as Wookiee? Like
Well, is
300
that
years
no,
old?
I mean, is that why he has an underbite? Because he doesn't have teeth?
I think that's the implication that from a design perspective.
Okay.
He's missing some. Somebody thought about it, believe it or not.
Old ass jaws up in his fucking forehead.
Here we got this is what Mark Hamill looks like in the holiday special.
Bro, his hair is atrocious.
I think we have a picture of an X-wing in the back because they didn't have space for an actual X-wing to be in there. So there's a big picture of an X-wing, and then he's working on what looks like an engine, but it's not actually an X-wing engine. You got the real R2 though.
Oh yeah.
There's all kinds of wacky stuff like this,
Oh,
like
shit,
Art
is that
Carney.
Bubbles?
Art Carney
Hey,
tries to sell
Show
an
you a
Imperial
picture of
officer.
my kitty, and God damn it, Ricky.
It's actually he tries to sell this Imperial officer a microscopic aquarium for some reason. That's something they just talk about for no good
Fucking
reason.
fish in it, Ricky.
And Carrie Fisher is looking impressed. For some reason, she and her Rebel base has Death Star walls in it because Star Wars.
God,
no
Carrie
Rebel.
Fisher is so beautiful.
Yeah, and she was like probably as high as she's ever been at this time.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's really crazy that they got all the actors to do this, because like Harrison Ford voiced the cartoon.
Well, he's also in it, yeah.
Yeah, and then Mark Hamill also did the voice, and then he shows up, and Carrie Fisher, because it's like if they did something like this today, they wouldn't show up for it. You know
This
what I
is
mean?
the one piece of action in the whole thing Harrison Ford fakes out a stormtrooper and then he falls off the railing to his death, and it doesn't really show it. But not a single blaster is fired during the entire hour and a half of the holiday special.
They weren't paying for those effects.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the only ones that are fired are when they reuse footage from A New Hope when the TIE fighters are chasing the Millennium Falcon.
Did they use the Wilhelm scream? I forgot.
I think they do. I think they literally do when the stormtrooper falls off the balcony.
He's gotta, dude. It's not.
Yeah, like there's,
Wow.
I mean, there's no point of going over this in chronological order, but there's so many like fun facts. Like for example, these background Wookiees, you know, it reminds you of like the old Planet of the Apes movies where you have the apes that are allowed to get close to the camera, and then you have the Dollar General apes that have to stay in the background, and that's what these Wookiees are. And in fact, Wookiees are wearing the commercially available Dawn Post Wookiee mask that was already in production as a consumer item.
Wow.
So like these are $100 Halloween masks basically that were made to
Bro.
promote the first movie.
It's like that kid in the Mandalorian wearing the voice changer Boba Fett.
Yeah,
helmet. We're
the
like,
big
"God, we know
visor."
what the fuck this is, guys.
And if you look at the guy, and they don't even have gloves. If you look at, there's one guy there with his regular hands out.
Yeah, he's got it in their hands. Jesus.
Now this might be a production still, but you know, if you guys have been like, the Disney parks have had a life day night like for the last like few years, and they were selling like red robes like this for a while. They sell Christmas ornaments of like the little bauble that the Wookiees have there.
Well, that's so when the
Wow.
executives get done worshiping Satan, they can make some money off the robes.
It's Dean. It's Moloch. It's
Oh,
not
sorry.
Satan. Okay, get it straight. Yeah, you got to know the lore of Bohemian Grove. Okay, this is actually that's where they filmed this scene. Actually, is Bohemian Grove.
Okay.
And we get another look at the cantina, which has some of the original costumes, some new ones, but it's a whole different set, of course. And B. Arthur from Golden Girls is now the bartender. So in this shot, this is a promotional still. These are all a bunch of original masks that were like some of the Rick Baker ones, and actually, we spent a lot of time last episode talking about Stan Winston, and this is actually the only Star Wars project he worked on, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
Wow.
And but you know, there's a few creatures like there's a like the,
Blanche?
yeah,
that-
exactly.
Is that Wolfman kind of thing back there? Is that supposed to be what's in the skeleton crew?
So
Now that
yeah, I mean,
pirate?
sort of. Yeah, that's actually that guy on the left is actually the figure that didn't quite make the cut for the HasLab Cantina.
Mm.
And
I see it.
yeah, he's sort of the closest to the new Wolfman from Skeleton Crew. But you know, it's funny. Like Tom Spina, who the guy who owns Regal Robot, he was talking about that, and this guy has a Lucasfilm license to make high-end Star Wars products, and he made a post. He was like, "Please, Lucasfilm, this better not be the same species as the guy in Skeleton Crew, because there are these very obvious phenotypic differences." He's like nerding out so hard.
Jesus.
He's like, this has to be a different wolf race. It can't be the same race. He's like, please don't say that it's the same race, Lucasfilm. That's going to be an L. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then, I mean, you know, but almost everybody else here was in the original movie. There's a giant rat, and I don't know if I have a shot of him, but he was actually just taken from he was an available costume from a different movie that was called Food of the Gods, where there's a bunch of giant animals. There's a full-size, human-sized rat just sitting at a table with rat proportions, not human proportions.
Rodents of unusual size? They don't exist.
Exactly. Yeah, and then, you know, we're back at Bohemian Grove with Harrison Ford looking real impressed to be there. And I wonder if Peter Mayhew's wearing the full wool suit underneath there. It looks a little bit skinny, don't you think?
Yeah, it
Maybe
looks
they-
too thin.
Maybe
There's
it's
no
gloves only. And then another
The fucking look on Harrison Ford's face too is just like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
yeah, that's, you know, I went for some production stills because, as you guys know, there's no HD copy of the holiday special, so like the screenshots from it I have are like real blurry. But you can notice something here, which is Luke's lightsaber is actually a totally it is a Graflex camera flash, but it's actually a totally different one model wise than the the one used in A New Hope. So it's like you guys got the real R2 and 3PO, but somebody couldn't hook you up with the Graflex prop. Like it's somebody, they made a whole new lightsaber that looks different from a different camera flash, same brand, but a different camera flash. And the lightsaber replica nerds have their own. That's like a whole separate model that some of the real diehards build.
Really?
That's wild.
The holiday special version, and then you got the whole family with their magic Christmas orbs, and once they sacrifice a baby to Moloch, they all transcend into the alternate universe of the galaxy here, which is probably the
circles we descend.
this might be the most expensive shot in the holiday special, where they all sort of walk into the sun here.
Dear
Look,
God.
we got some new names in the chat. Nice to see you in the chat, Rob Barnes. And we random Koreans on the channel once in a while popping in to say late. He's saying Happy New Year to everybody. Rob says, didn't GL try to buy all the existing copies so he could burn them? He did. I feel like that would be an impossible task, because knowing Star Wars collectors, like there's, it's like hydras, like every time you cut off one head, another one grows with bootleg copies of the holiday special. So,
Yeah.
But he does have a very famous quote where he said, I think it's something to the effect of, if I had the time and money, I would go around and smash every copy of it with a hammer or something like that.
I mean, it's charming in its own way. It's not like an abomination, but I get it, I guess.
It is, but you just got to be able to laugh at it, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's like you were obviously
it all
proud enough
worked
to
out.
put it out when it came out.
Yeah. And all right, so, but I just wanted, there's a ton of behind the scenes stuff, all from StarWarsHolidaySpecial.com. I really recommend you guys check that out, just to nerd out a little bit. But like, here's Ralph McQuarrie's sketch combined side by side with a fully rendered painting that he did showing the Wookiee interior of the house. So it's like, this is the
beautiful.
parts. Exactly. Like if you just saw this, and you never saw the holiday special, but you're like, here's what Ralph McQuarrie thinks Chewbacca's house looks like. It's like, dang, it's pretty nice.
Damn, he's got a green shag carpet.
It's grass.
Well,
And then there's
grass
like
up
there's
in the trees. I don't know. About
there's
that.
actually a lot of behind the scenes photos. Like here's
that's what you're gonna get hung up on, D.
here's a guy working on the version of R2 that was used in the holiday special. This is actually specifically a behind the scenes holiday special R2 shot.
Bro.
And then
It was the 70s. This is definitely a shag carpet.
oh yeah, and on the set for sure. So like another famous a silly detail about the holiday special is that the Falcon cockpit is actually a totally different Falcon cockpit than the one from A New Hope and the one from Empire. And it's actually like the Dollar General version. It's got less lights. It's smaller. Look how far down Chewbacca's feet are sticking on an apple box there underneath the.
It's like Fred
Crazy.
Flintstone, dude.
Yep, and they got a big old TV camera aimed right in there. And basically, though, if you sort of do a side-by-side comparison of some of the details, you sort of see, like, look, here's a good shot where you can just see that the detail is just not up to scratch for even what they had in A New Hope, where it looked like a proper airplane cockpit. This looks like cardboard by comparison. The broad shape of the door they had and the white wraparound light, but actually, I think the white light is supposed to be aligned on the side and the back wall there, and it's sort of offset here. There's a few obvious differences.
Do we know where this was filmed?
I'm
Because like the animation was in Canada.
yeah.
Was this-
Don't I should know the answer to that, but I'm strongly believing that it was in the States, and the movies were all filmed in the UK, so that's probably why they didn't ship over a
They didn't want to
Falcon set.
ship it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I forgot about that. I forgot they were in the UK.
Otherwise, you'd never build a second Millennium Falcon cockpit.
That's what
right?
I was saying. Like,
Yeah.
because like you said the thing earlier about the Graflex, and I was like, yeah, why wouldn't they just let them use the Falcon they already have? But yeah, it makes sense if it's
Right.
on the other side of the world.
And here, with his righteous open shirt and gold necklace, is Stan Winston. You wouldn't recognize him because we're so used to seeing him with luscious white hair. But here's 70s Stan Winston combing the lumpy mask. The legend who would go on to make the T-800, the Predator, aliens, xenomorphs. Here he has comb and Chewbacca's son's hair.
Such
Dean,
humble
you're muted,
roots.
sir.
This his son's name is Lumpy.
Well, in canon, his name is Lump War Rump.
That's better.
Because they realized they had to make it sound like a Chewbacca-ish name for expanded universe novels in the 90s. So they're like, why was he called Lumpy? It must be like Chewie. It must be short for something. So some author made him a longer name. And I think his wife's canon name was Mala Tobuk. And Itchy's I can't say, but I know he was in Galactic Battlegrounds with his full name, the PC game. He was one of the hero NPCs you could drop off, Chewbacca's father.
Wow.
And he dual wielded like giant swords.
Badass.
Yeah. So, you know, oh, look at that. We got Rob chiming in with the filming location. It was shot in Burbank. So there you go. That's why you don't have the real Falcon set. It's good to reach the level of knowledge where you can infer things that are turned out to be basically true. Here's the horrific
Jesus
lumpy mask with no
Christ.
teeth. There you
Oh
go.
my
He has no teeth left, as you can see.
My God.
That is nightmare fuel. Jesus. It looks like something from the Leprechaun movie.
Now this might have been
Yeah.
this might have been photographed like after it had degraded. Well, I don't know what year the photo was taken because you know these
Yeah,
masks
that's
just
right.
don't hold up. But it doesn't look much better than it did in the show. Much worse, I
Wow.
mean. Here's the one of the acrobats for that they recently had to recreate from for Skeleton Crew. And you know, there's a real famous collector named Gus Lopez who actually here's the levels that are out there. You know, when you get into the top 5 Star Wars collectors, there's a guy who has most of the costumes from the acrobat sequence on mannequins in a room.
Why?
Does he brag about it?
Because-
I mean,
because once you have everything else, what do you get? The guy who has everything. That's what it.
I
But
guess.
you know, but 2 rooms down, he has a screen used slave Leia bikini. So like, you know,
Oh,
to each their own,
Jesus.
man. He's got it all, man. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the level it gets to.
Think he sniffs it at night?
I was gonna say, is it vacuum sealed?
I think it's in a glass cylinder. So you know, it's oh man. Well, you know, on that
Go ahead,
subject,
Chris.
10
that
out of 10
subject-
would.
here's Carrie Fisher looking depressed, drinking a
Oh,
tab.
she's coming down.
Drinking a tab, smoking a cigarette. It's like, what the fuck am I doing in my life? It's like pre-sad Keanu, dude.
Yeah, it is.
I feel like this picture has meme potential. Like the kids just need to find it. Yeah.
She's like,
You
who
know?
the fuck bought that bikini?
No, this is before that existed.
I know.
Yeah.
This is being funny.
But you know, there's three of those, Dean. So they're around. They're in a few collections. But yeah, so that's it, and that's all from StarWarsHolidaySpecial.com. What a great, easy to remember URL, which is just loaded with behind the scenes nonsense. And there's the Skeleton Crew picture of the acrobats recreated there. Even
Is
had to
anyone
recreate.
watching this?
I've been watching it. It's very, you know what? It's inoffensive, unlike some recent other projects. But it's really not worth your time, probably. But it's inoffensive at least.
Yeah.
It's as George always liked to say, it's for the kids.
Yeah.
Although
But
But it's
I,
fun.
I
it's
will,
entertaining.
yeah, like I will give them credit. There was a scene where they were explaining the back history of a pirate. Not this recent episode, the one before that, and they referenced that he was like murdered by his concubine or something. And they did write a scene where the kids ask, "What is a concubine?" And then they moved the subject on pretty short after that, which that's a step in the right direction for a Disney show. But but yeah, you know, final verdict, we're all giving it ones, but you know, ones or zeros, but we're you know, when I said I want to talk about this, neither Dean nor Mike said no thank you. I just, for the record, you know, it's always going to be a fun chat.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
it's
that's what I was
perfect.
saying. It has its own charm to it. Like, is it bad? Sure, but like, it's fun to talk about. It's interesting to look at and learn about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And something that when it comes to collectibles, this is where it gets nuts, because like for something so divisive and objectively terrible, it has a ton of collectibles, mostly because of Boba Fett's first appearance. But one that's a little bit off the beaten path is like, this is the 1978 original Star Wars figure Snaggletooth. And the reason I put that up here is because even though it is not really a holiday special figure, this version of the costume and the photograph on the card are actually from the holiday special, because they didn't have a good enough picture of this mask from the original movie. So this is sort of a holiday special figure, because the red suit with that buckle is actually only in the holiday special.
Holiday adjacent.
Yeah, that's a deep cut there. And then here's a Star Wars Galaxy card, which would have come out in the mid 90s. So they weren't hiding from it. They were talking about, this is Boba Fett's first appearance in a 90s Topps set there. And here's the figure Dean was talking about earlier, which I picked up one of these to pair the tuning fork with the more recently released Droids 3 3/4 Boba Fett, because that looks a lot more holiday special accurate than this, but that one did not come with the tuning fork. So you got to mix and match if you want all the best parts. A couple years ago, this is a crazy one. A couple years ago, they put out a holiday special Chewbacca with magical Christmas orb and red
That's
robe.
Crazy.
Yeah, and this, it's so boring, in fact, that it's putting Dean to sleep as we speak. But
that's my fault. I stayed up late.
But we're getting there. I put a Funko on here just because screw Funkos, but it's interesting they made a holiday special one. Yeah, this is the only one that almost got me. I saw it at GameStop and I was like, stay strong, Chris. Do not buy a Funko. Here's a Hallmark ornament from a couple years ago.
Badass.
It's a good Hallmark ornament. With the it's very cartoon accurate, because the whole armor is different, right? Like the chest piece and shoulder pads are different. And here's a Hot Toys
too.
Yeah, exactly. Very desirable Hot Toys with 5 fingers, not accurate. But this is a repaint from.
Did that. I guess it's easier.
Well, yeah, it's just
Hot
a
Toys
repaint.
being Hot Toys, man. Come on.
Yeah. But I like, this one tempted me at the time, but I didn't get into 1/6 scale at the time.
Yeah.
This is maybe like 5 or 6 years ago now. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I would love to own this. I think it's like a 500 plus figure now. Price wise.
Oh, Mark Pearson sold his to Equan, and he regrets it. And moving on from that comment, but I agree. And then, so yeah, a couple more. Look, they did a good job with the background. At least they gave it that sort of the color palette of the cartoon.
Pastel colors.
Yeah. And then here's here's John signing my Gentle Giant sort of 10th scale statue, which it's probably, this is once again more cartoon accurate. He's got the 4 fingers. And John signed it right on the base there for me when we had him at a local show, which is pretty cool.
That's
awesome.
Kotobukiya? Who's that?
That's Gentle Giant, actually.
Gentle Giant.
And it's like 2013, I think. So you can still find them out there. They're not terribly expensive, like a couple $100, something like that. And then this is also Gentle Giant, which is like weirdly stylistically a slightly more detailed, and it's just a bust. It's not as cartoon accurate as the other one, but this is sort of simplistic, but the cartoon is simplistic. This is a little more detailed, but
they messed the fingers up again.
Yeah, there you go. This is like slightly more realistic interpretation. And then I got some production prints from John that he signed. That's one of those there. And that's it. And yeah, man. So I don't know. That was an experience. So I'm gonna read
cool. That was really cool to get him on.
No kidding, man. That's the thing. Like, you realize like Star Wars is coming up on 50. like if you have any connection to any of these guys and there's anything you never wanted to ask him, now's the time, man. Because John's a prolific guy. He makes his own comics. I think he's gonna be around a long time, but he might, and in 2-3 years from now, he might tell me to take a hike when I ask him to be on a podcast.
Right.
You know what I mean? I may not feel like it then. So
That's an option.
well, what you do is you preset how long you want to be on the show in advance, Mike. That's how you do it. So you can get out before the Patreon read, which is Captain Fordo, Ian Seaby, Renee Mendez, Eric Mariscal, Quinn Aguirre, King Louis, Mark Pearson, Paul Schreiber, Equan, Chris Valencerina, Ben Thomas, David Jones, Sam Gist, Joao Bretta, Thomas Clark, Eric Schweitzer, Six Guns Figs, Badfish, Joe Corpus, Luke Skywalker, Dan Lee, Deanie Martin, Big Fern, Caesar American, Mark Phillips, Lisa Martin Bomonsky, Rick DeGregorio, Ricardo Valdez, Jose CZ, Alid Morgan, Tukathri, Wah, Derek B, Arias Portillo, Alvin J, Mario Delgado, Aurelius Delgado, Toy Cartel, Sith Scale Collector, Jared Gagne, Alberto Cortez, Big Rib, Trevor Weed, Matt Clevenger, Don Maton, Stephen Percha, Sean Yautzey, Scott Bradley, Stephen Maria Stanley, and Eddie Manzanares, Louis Bennett, Chip Perrin, Exodus, Abe Dunk TV, and Gigi the Judgmental. We really appreciate you guys. If you join the hot seat on Patreon, you'll get your name in that list, and you'll get all the episodes of After Dark after they're removed off the public feeds there. And if you join at Sweet Angel or above, you will get yourself some sweet stickers sent every other month. And the November-December benefits were the Merry Oxmas sticker and the Quackerzacks sticker. So that's pretty much it, guys. Mike, any final words since Dean has left the land of the living? Oh,
I'm tired, dude.
No, man, this was a good pick. I mean, we can joke all we want, but right when we talk about doing these shows, it's not only has it got to be something good, but it's got to be something worth having a conversation about. And there's very few things that we can talk good or bad about to this level. And for you to get John to come in was awesome. I could have listened to him talk, for 2 hours. And I was looking at his IMDb, and it was opening some core memories, not just the stuff that I was into, but I had a younger sister, and I saw Strawberry Shortcake and Care Bear stuff listed on there, and it's just like, man, what a life. What a time.
It seems like he touched like every animated show that came out for like a 30-year period. So it's just like I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm sure we can if we
She-Ra, I mean, all that good stuff.
Just iconic stuff. And it's I wouldn't be surprised if we can get him back on if we wanted to talk about something else. Maybe if we started earlier, especially. But I think he was having fun. But he went a little longer than was initially negotiated. So we appreciate John's time, and definitely check out his site because his self-published comics are exciting stuff. They're pretty interesting. I'd check that out if you're so inclined. And the holiday special book is a fascinating artifact because I feel like he put that together when we started in some of these smaller groups started inviting him out to shows, and he realized he has all this production art and it's not accessible. So he put that together, and it's cool to see. But guys, that's pretty much all she wrote for this episode of CW Movie Night. I don't know what we're doing next, and we'll figure it out if we're going to start alternating with OFAC or what. And, maybe we'll get a Dean or a Mike pick in next time. But for now, that's it from us. And, like I said, if I can plug one thing, if you liked hearing from John, search May the North Be With You Nelvana Reunion Panel, and you'll get an hour and a half of John cutting it up with two of his old colleagues, and it's a good time. But other than that, have a good night, guys, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Bye.